We're joined by our dear beloved Brother Akko. So before I go to Brother Akko, let me just quickly say, I know Queen Mother Yerfine is listening. She is in New Orleans today. And for those who are listening in the United States of America and close to New Orleans, the annual, is it Boku? Is it Boku Hoodoo? You didn't tell me how to pronounce this Yerfine. Festival is happening today, and it's happening in Congo Square. And this is, so she's saying, this is where our enslaved ancestors gathered every Sunday to be in community. So the invitation, join us in your all-white attire for the annual ancestral procession. And the second line to Congo Square. This moment is at a time to invoke and call upon the spirits of our individual and collective ancestors and dance to the beat of ancient West African rhythms that carry them through times of trials and triumph. And this coming just after we spoke to Ras Jomo from Buffalo in New York, telling us about the MAGA moment in Black America. So the Congo Square in New Orleans. That's happening today. Joining me online, my brother Akko Mutota. He was born in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, that you know by now, so it's my Trinidad and Tobago brother. He's involved in the revolutionary movement there and in somewhat referred to as the Black Power movement. He was a senior member of the National Joint Action Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. He's also been involved in the book and publishing industry in the U.S. in Chicago and Atlanta for about 20 years. Brother Akko is a founder of the Rio Claro Heritage and Preservation Organization, an organization based in rural South Trinidad, and he's a founding member of the Caribbean Progressive Perspectives, and he joins us live online. Brother Akko, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us this morning.
Morning, Sister Kabu, and good morning to your listening audience. And let me give a shout out to my people in Congo Square, in New Orleans. I have some very good friends there. Sister Vera, the owner of Community Book Center, and Sister Jennifer, the manager of the bookstore. So I have been to that place on more than one occasion. So I want to give a shout out to my people in New Orleans, Louisiana, and also to Brother Kalamu Yasalam. Actually, he's the poet laureate of New Orleans. Very,
Oh, wow. So this is brilliant. I'm quite sure Queen Mother Yerfine heard that. She is listening right now. She's been texting. So I'm quite sure she heard that just now, Brother Akko. Brother Akko, we've been having, this morning I spent some time talking about this new warfare, drone warfare and drone warfare technology, and that this is now being used in Haiti, as we set the foundation for the conversation that we're about to have. I'm sorry that we do not have a whole lot of time, but I want to go immediately to your own perspective of what the situation is like initially in Haiti right now, and your commentary on the extent to which this new kind of warfare is being unleashed on Haiti. Who's behind it? Who is doing this? What has changed in Haiti in terms of governance, military operation, and policing over time?
So, Sister Kabu, you know the saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same?
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to contextualize Haiti in that way. That despite the new methodologies and the new approaches to violence by the West, it is more or less a repeat of the same. In trying to sort of conceptualize a sort of response to this interview, I started to look at history. What has happened in this hemisphere? how do we interpret the world, which I think is what we have to understand. If you look at what happened 500 years ago with the Incas and the Aztecs, the indigenous people, it was this new technology and this new violence that basically exterminated their world. And I think as people who live in the contemporary situation, we have to understand the world for what it is. The world of 500 years ago is the world of today.
Mm-hmm.
The world of 500 years ago was ushered in by violence. The extermination of the indigenous people, the extermination of the enslavement of Africans, and our own extermination in some parts of the world.
Matter of fact, we're just talking about the Garifuna people earlier. So, I mean, this is really
exactly. So what we are witnessing now, and I think I'm trying to simplify for people to understand, because sometimes we make some of these things too complex. We talk about drone warfare and what is happening in, with the new killings in Haiti and so on. But what is happening is, our ancestors created a world, or came into a world, if you want to call it that, evolved into a world.
Yes.
You had two dimensions, a material world and an immaterial world. Okay? Or what you may want to call a physical world and a metaphysical world.
Yes.
Right? In that the material world dealt with things like economics, how you organize societies, communities, and so on. And the immaterial world or the metaphysical world dealt with eschatological things like concept of God, who made us, and all that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. The two are interconnected. Once the Aztec lost their metaphysical world, they also lost their physical world. What you are seeing, and what has replaced it, is actually capitalism and imperialism, and all the other things that derive from it, colonization and so on and so forth. So this history of violence is something that has been constant once we encountered the European in this part of the world. And what we are seeing in Haiti is just another manifestation of that world. Mm-hmm. This Italian philosopher, Gramsci, said that the old world is dying, the new world struggles to be born. It is a time of monsters. And this is what is really happening. A new world is being created before our eyes. And the world that was destroyed by the advent of imperialism and colonization, that world is trying to ensure that this new world is not created. Mm-hmm. And this is what we are seeing. You see, Haiti represents something very important to us. Haiti represents an attempt to reconstruct a new world, not just a physical world, because Haiti's world also had a metaphysical construct, which is what we call voodoo, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same way Rastas create a metaphysical world, right? In this time here. And so we have to understand it in that way, that there's a struggle between this old world that enslaved us, that colonized us, and this new world that we are trying to create. The war in Iran, for example, is an expression of that new world that is being created. What is happening in the Sahel? So Haiti is just part of this process, right?
I hear you, Brother Ako, in terms of the conflict, if you will, or the contention, some people call it an inflection point, of we're at a moment where there is a struggle between the old world and the new world, and some people talk about the new world order and the fourth industrial revolution and so on. But aren't these two worlds being created by the very same forces? In that we the spiritual people you talked about just now, in the greater scheme of things. So the old world is dying, the new world is about to be born, but created by the very same force.
No. That new world is what people in Cuba, people in the Sahel are trying to create. That's what we are struggling to create.
Okay, I see, from that perspective. Or not from the Marconi perspective of the new world order.
No. The new world is a conspiracy, is a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
What I'm talking about, that's why I said there's a material world, and an immaterial world, or a physical and a metaphysical. Mm-hmm. What a lot of us, the work you are doing and others, what we are doing in terms of raising consciousness of people, this is our attempt to create the new world. This is what the Cuban Revolution attempted to do, which Fidel always talks about. Let us imagine a new world. And this world that we are trying to create, where poverty is not natural, where violence against people is not natural, where wars are not tools of trying to coerce people, where wars doesn't exist. That is the new world.
Hold the point.
This is what we're trying to create.
Hold the point for me, Brother Akko.
Get more miles with the Ruby's Ultratech. Fuel the time by Ruby's Ultratech is.
We're just about 8:50, and you're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running Africa in 10 minutes, going up to 9 o'clock. Brother Akko, we're talking about what the situation as it is now in Haiti. Brother Akko, you're challenging us to look at this from within from the lens of our African spiritual selves, and to connect this back, put this in a historical perspective in terms of our anciency, to understand what's happening now. And I hear you saying that there is a new world being born, this new world being created by us, by we the people, the spiritual African people, if you will. And you say this is happening in Cuba, this is happening in Haiti, this is happening across the world. And this the violence that we see is a struggle between, if you will, good and evil. Is that basically it?
Yes, if you want to contextualize it that way, but that is simplifying it, because again, sometimes we look at this idea of good and evil through this, what I call missionary theological perspective, right, which has a concept of a chosen people. I do not believe in a world with a chosen people. I do not believe in a God that has a chosen people either. I believe in my ancestors and the God of my ancestors. So when I speak about the reconstruction of this world, it is through that perspective, through that eschatology, if you want to call it that, not this idea of what they tell us.
Not a biblical theological perspective.
Exactly, not missionary theology. If you want to call it, right?
Totally understand. All right, so I totally understand the perspectives from which you are, directing us to view this. As we go by day, this is each day. So this is the reality on the ground. And I wanted your perspective, and I know you have some ideas as to what the situation is on the ground right now. I want to talk about that for a minute, if you will, in terms of who is there, because we have a situation that we are faced with mercenaries on the continent of Africa, wherever we are. We see these very same people operating out of Haiti now. What can you tell us about that situation there on the ground as we speak?
The situation as it exists in Haiti is one in which the West, to some extent, has utilized chaos as a tool of destabilization, which is what they're doing everywhere. Again, as their power decline, they must create chaos,
Yes.
division. And that is what you are seeing in Haiti. The many interventions of those that you see and those that you don't see is mainly responsible for what exists in Haiti today. And what they are trying to do is to ensure that the idea of Haiti as a state that liberated itself, as a people of African descent who changed the world, they are trying to reverse that. And they have been trying to do that for a number of years. And this is what you are seeing. We have to learn to see the value of Haiti. And I think we can't see the value of Haiti simply because of the way we see the world. Simply because we are so indoctrinated in this, what I call missionary theology, that we can't interpret the world through any other lens. And unless we can find a way of what I call deconstructing those ideas that we have been socialized in, we will never be able to see the value of Haiti.
Point well taken. How is what is happening generally Haiti connected back to Cuba, to what we saw in the Caribbean waters recently, and the bombing, if you will, or the shooting, death of fishermen and others, I think, in the Caribbean waters? How are all these connected? And to what extent do you think that this will also, this is not isolated, that the Caribbean region, we put in South America, must be on watch for what is about to unfold?
The idea is to maintain hegemony. And you have to understand this, that the ancients and our ancestors, again, saw the material world in a different way. We saw the world through not the lens of profit, but the world of cooperation and sharing and that kind of thing.
Yes.
You are dealing with essentially monsters whose only existence is profiteering. No matter what is done, whether it is violence in Iran, it is all about ensuring that profits, material gain is guaranteed. And so the entire systems that we have, political, economic systems, they are geared to ensure that a tiny minority maintain their hold on the resources of the world, whether it is water, whether it is oil, whether it is land, whatever it is. And what is happening in Haiti and Cuba and the Sahel, these are examples of saying, no, we want to change that paradigm. We want to see a world in which the resources of our countries, the resources of our communities are used to the benefit of all of us.
Go ahead, Brother Aka.
And so they look at this and say, listen, in the material context, how can we change this?
Yes.
We need to reorganize our economics, our political systems, our methods of organizing how our resources are shared. And this is what
and that's the point I was getting to in terms of in the material context, with just a few minutes to go. How can we change this in the material context? Because we do understand the spiritual, and that point is well taken. But here we are now, where the Caribbean, Trinidad has gone its own way. Jamaica is participating or practicing preemptive obedience. Guyana is also gone its own way. Barbados is playing a hide and seek and some Nancy tricks. And across the Caribbean, at the same time, we spoke with the Garifuna people today, and they are through the spiritual way reviving and reconnecting Garifuna people across the region, so that there are many things happening at the same time. From in the material perspective, what's the responsibility and the role of Caribbean leaders right now? And I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about Caribbean leaders wherever we are in the different sectors of the community.
I think, Sister Kabu, we have to fundamentally educate people, organize people on how we change these systems. These systems under which we live, whether they're economic systems, political systems, social, cultural systems, we have to change them. And that is what we're not talking about. We're not talking about how do we change these systems. We have a so-called democracy that is more performative than substantial. And yet we are not challenging these things. How do we organize our politics? How do we organize? We have to begin in concrete ways at community levels, at very micro levels, to attempt to change the systems. Fundamentally, for the last 500 years, we have lived under capitalism. We are not making people understand what capitalism is, what this thing is. We believe it is the only system of economic and political organization. It is not. We have many ideas in our traditions. We have other ideas, for example, socialist ideas from different thinkers. We have to
take a minute to talk to us about
ideologically.
Take a minute to talk to us about some of those ideas as we go out, Brother Ako.
So, Sister Cabo, I recently have been reading a lot of old books, right? I try to read like 20, 30 pages every day. And yesterday I was reading this book by Lenin called The State and the Revolution, and in which Lenin is analyzing the state and why we must overthrow the state. The state does not represent our interests. It never had and never will. The state represents the interests of a tiny minority that he calls the bourgeois. He calls the petty bourgeois and the big bourgeois, right? But we are not speaking it in this. We're speaking about all kinds of metaphysical and religious and end time, when there are matters before us of how do we organize our economics, what kind of state do we want, what kind of community do we want, how do we organize our politics? Is it around communals? Is it around these counties or whatever we do? We have to begin in the 1970s. We spoke a lot about these things. No, we do not speak about these things anymore. So we have to look at how do we change the state? What kind of state do we want? And what kind of economy and political systems do we want? What kind of democracy do we want? Because what we have is not democracy. It's a facade, right? We call it democracy. So from my point of view, these are the issues we need to be focusing on. What kind of state do we want? We have lived under these states, so-called independencies, for the last 60 odd years in some cases. And what has happened? Nothing has changed. We are still exploited. We have moved from chattel slaves to wage slaves. We have no power. We elect representatives who are selected before they represent us. And so these are the ideas to me that we have to begin to look at. And whether we understand what is happening in Haiti or other places, we have to contextualize it in the fact that some people are trying to change these states, trying to change this approach to politics and economics and to create something different.
Brother Akko, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much as usual. Really enjoyed our time with you. And thank you for the challenge that we see things through our lens of Africanity, understanding who we are as ancient spiritual people. I think that is critical, even while we look at the geopolitical upheavals and tensions and so on. Always the African lens. Thank you so much, Brother Akko.
Thank you very much. Good to see you in person.
Oh, there you go. That's true. We have.
All right.
Well, we talk soon. All right.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.